Now among the Greeks there was a deity who in those old days was a very kindly, rather good-hearted, good-natured deity. He was a human being, part of his body that of a faun or a satyr. This was the great god Pan, and he lived in the reeds by the river. And here he played upon his shepherd's pipes, and he was the god of nature, and he was the god of the meadows and the valleys and the rich fields of grain. Now, nature to the Greek would naturally be kindly, because he was a nature lover. The Greek was never burdened with a kind of theology that was heavy with mortal sin. He had no such concept of life. To him, worship of the gods was a pleasant affair, to be accompanied by dance and festival, and to be celebrated in the altars, in the groves, and by the roadside, where flowers and fruit were brought to the various homes of the deities and divinities. So this rather kindly, optimistic, extroverted group of people saw in the god Pan a very near and dear friend, because he was with them in the streams and in the seas and in the lakes and the rivers. He was always there, and with the flowers of summer and the wind blowing through the trees, and he was a very congenial type of individual. Now this deity Pan was usually represented with a human head with very sharp ears and short blunt horns on his forehead. The upper part of his body was human, but the lower part ended in the hoofs of an animal. He had a short tail which he could waggle very strenuously, and he was particularly fond of running about the countryside, playing with the children and all these things, and when other matters did not interfere, he liked to be a shepherd and to play his flute of 7 reeds in the dusk of the evening, where his music could be heard through the hills, echoing happily and rhythmically. Now, when the changes of religious belief came along, there was a saying that with the rise of the church, great Pan died. And such is said to have been the statement of the oracle. But actually, the great Pan did not die because the new religion wouldn't let him die. Such a pleasant, natural, and terminal condition for the happy god of the valleys was not permitted. One of the early habits that we find among many religious groups, and this goes into all parts of the world, is that the gods of former religions were gradually transformed into the demons of the new religion. Thus we attempted to cast particular disrepute upon old faiths. So the happy, pleasant, kindly deity Pan was transformed into a demon. He was transformed into a devil with a cloven hoof and horns on his forehead, and his pleasant music was transformed into a kind of dance of death, so that all who followed him lost their souls. This new kind of devil was given a region over which he ruled, a region of chaos, confusion, and destruction, attended by all the nymphs and satyrs and nereids of the old belief, and this region was appropriately called Pandemonium. And we still have the word as a symbol of utter and complete confusion. There was no greater confusion than that which arose concerning Pan himself and what was done to him. Now Pan, of course, is the origin of our Mephistopheles, who even in the direful and dourest moments of his career of conspiracy proclaims himself in the story of Faust as part of the power that still works for good while ever scheming ill. Mephisto, in this case, the word Mephistopheles, has never been adequately derivated. We do not know exactly where it comes from, but we think from a Latin deity, Mephistus, which probably could have originated it, particularly because the Latin deity was a pleasant, cheerful, happy, and benevolent creature, just as far from this monster as you can possibly imagine. Now, why should Mephisto appear in this curious likeness? Why should great Pan take on so monstrous a shape and appear as he does in the opera as a gallant cavalier with his tight-fitting red suit and his black cape and the long feather in his cap and all of the appearance of a man of gentle parts and good character? Actually, with Faust representing the confusion of a collapsing ethical system and the rise of humanism, Mephisto as Pan fits perfectly into the required picture, because Mephisto represents, as Pan did, primarily the physical universe, nature itself, the earth with its mountains and its valleys and its seas. Therefore, the power of Mephisto lay in the fascination of the material world, a fascination which began to take hold of the minds of European thinkers after the Protestant Reformation.